The CEO Hour with Dean Akers. The mission? To help CEOs and startups succeed in today's marketplace. Entrepreneur or established CEOs, is your business growing? Where is your business going? Let's talk about it with your host, Dean Akers.
Well, welcome to the CEO Hour. I'm your host, Dean Akers, and each week I bring you top CEOs and entrepreneurs that share their journey. This includes their thoughts and ideas that's helped them in their successes and things they've, quite frankly, learned not to do again. Today, I want to welcome Tom Wallace, Managing Partners for Florida Funders. Hey, welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Dean. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you know, our listeners out there, they're generally entrepreneurs. In fact, we got a lot of business people that listen to, and they love learning from folks like yourself. And probably one of the biggest comments I get from listeners out there in the emails and stuff they send me is how they enjoy the true journey. So I always started off, and it always puts people on their heels. I go, what happened on 10/19/1958?
That's my birthday, obviously, so you're showing my age, which I'm not.
Hey, what are you talking about? You're younger than I am. I got my Medicare card now.
Okay. Well, I was born in Pittsburg, as I think you know, Dean, and I was born into a blue-collar family. My father was a union guy. He worked for the local utility climbing poles. He was a lineman, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
And neither of my parents graduated from high school. And I'm one of four kids, so I have an older brother, older sister, and a younger sister. And my brother and I are Irish twins.
Really?
Yeah, so, well, he's 13 months apart. But we grew up in an Irish Catholic family, and I always say that. So, it's been, it's kind of interesting because people always ask me. My brother by the way, just as a little tidbit, my brother just sold his company for $1.6 billion. He ran a software company. We're both entrepreneurs and both in tech our whole career. But I get asked a lot, how did you and your brother become successful coming out of a family like that in business?
But what were you doing like when you were in high school? I mean, did you have any tinges of entrepreneurship when you were a young kid?
No. Nobody around me was an entrepreneur.
No, but I mean, we've had guests on where they say, well, what do you, I had a paper route or something.
Oh, I had a paper route. I caddied. I worked from the time I was. One thing backing up on my parents, I always say, when it comes to parents, I got dealt a pair of aces. What they lacked in education, they more than made up for in the stuff that they taught me and my siblings, and that was values. They taught us hard work. We worked from a very young age. My father was a very tough guy. He was a blue collar. There was nothing soft about my father, and he was tough on my brother. He was tough on me. He expected a lot. But they taught us values. They taught us the meaning of hard work, the importance of hard work. They taught us, honesty. They taught us, to get an education. They were part of the kind of just out of the Depression. So they were the kind of, they wanted us. They lived the American dream. They wanted their kids to have all the opportunities they didn't have. They didn't have the chance to go to college. So all four of my siblings graduated from college. My brother even got his MBA. So that was a given. We were going to college, even though they could never help us with our homework or never. It was just expected of us.
Right, but what you learned at a young age is they expected it, but you had to live up to the expectations that you somewhat didn't. You have to create those too.
Yeah, I don't know. I was very, I always say my brother and I were two of the, when we were young, we were pretty stupid and we fought a lot and we made every mistake on the planet. And my poor parents, how they put up with us, God only knows. The big life-changing thing probably for me and my brother was at the age of 15, we went to work at the local country club. Now, keep in mind, so I grew up in a blue-collar neighborhood. I don't really even know that wealth exists. I go to work at this blue-collar country club. Two things happened there. First of all, I got exposed to some very wealthy people. The Hineses, it was a blue blood club. I mean, and there's a lot of wealth in Pittsburg.
A lot of wealth.
Not near it. The Rockwells, the Hineses. I mean, the executives of major corporations. So all of a sudden, I'm seeing all these very wealthy people. The second thing is I met my best friend. And his name's Kevin Adamak. We met at the age of 15 working there. We started our first company at the age of 23 together, and we're business together 30-some years later. So I've been really blessed in my life. I've gotten to work with my best friend my entire life. How many people get to do that?
No, that's epic. And to your point, had you not went to work for that country club, that was a pretty big defining piece of your journey.
It was. And the thing we got, there's two things I saw with these now being exposed to wealthy people I never saw before was, one, I figured out that there were the ones that rose up the corporate ladder and blah, blah. But it was the first time I met some entrepreneurs. I met, there were some guys there that I got to know from working on the golf course and busting tables. They were self-made. They had started their own businesses, and I didn't even know that world existed. My father worked for the same company for 42 years, right? So I was exposed to that. The second thing it taught me was there were a lot of miserable people there. And their kids a lot of them were really screwed up. And I was like, geez, money doesn't create happiness and doesn't make sure it's not all it's cracked up to be. So one of the things that I can tell you as an entrepreneur, I never was in it to make money. That was never my driving motivator. It was, to me, it was always, it was different. That was not why I became an entrepreneur.
You know what's funny? That had to be a huge lesson for you, and I'm glad you're sharing it. Because most of the successful, actually I'd say 99% of the successful people I've met, and I'm talking about really successful, I'm not talking about people that have some money, they never were in it for the money. They were in it to either solve a problem or to help others or to they just enjoyed what they did. And so what a blessed time to work and see those key things before you're even out of high school.
Yeah. It was a great experience, and I met some great people, and one of the people I met got me my first internship. I interned when I was in college at Mellon Bank. It was from one of the members. He was one of the, executive vice presidents in Mellon Bank, and he got me in there, and so yeah, it was a great experience, and it was a great experience for my brother too. I tell this story because my brother to this day is a fabulous cook, so it was a very high end club. My brother cooked a lot more than I did. I cooked a little bit, and we both have a passion for cooking, but my brother was really talented from a very young age. And I don't know if you know anything about commercial cooking. It's completely different than cooking. I mean, you got to be fast. You got to be able to handle pressure. It's and you've got to be precise, and that's my brother. And he wanted to become a chef. He was going to go to the Culinary Institute. I'll never forget the chef pulled him aside one day. My brother's name's Tim, and he said, "Tim, listen, go get an education." I don't think my parents would ever let him do it anyway, but go get an education. You do not want to be in this business. The hours are terrible. We work all holidays, all week, and you see what we do. The rate of alcoholism is through the roof. And you don't make a lot of money. So go get an education, do something else, and that was great advice for him. So.
Well, but it sounds like, as his journey, he probably keeps that cooking passion though, huh?
Yeah, we both do. We're both big cooks.
Well, that's awesome. So now you're going to your high school graduation. And when you graduate, do you have your college already picked out, or?
Yeah, I did. I mean, because I went to a Division II school in the state school system, followed my brother there, because he's 13 months older. And I went to Indiana University of Pennsylvania, which you probably never heard of. It's part of the state school system. First of all, it was cheap. We didn't have any money. So I was working at the country club, and I did all through high school and college to pay for it. And my parents, we just, they had 4 kids in college at the same time. So we just couldn't afford to go really very far. And my world was a very small world. I grew up in a very small, I never really had traveled or been anywhere or got to do any of that. I never was on an airplane until my senior year of college when Gulf Oil flew me to Houston for a job interview.
Oh, my goodness. So the University of Indiana in Pennsylvania is actually in Pittsburgh?
It's outside of Pittsburgh. It's in Indiana, Pennsylvania, which is only famous for 2 things. It's the hometown of Jimmy Stewart, and there's a famous alumni from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, besides me. No, just kidding. And his name's Chad Hurley. He's big in the tech world. You probably don't know who he is, but Chad he started and founded YouTube.
So in your world, Pittsburgh at that moment, because I'm a little older than you, my dad grew up in Pittsburgh, McKeesport, actually.
Oh, really?
And Pittsburgh was the kind of the armpit. It was in the Rust Belt when you were in high school, probably, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, still. I mean, it was a steel town. I mean, I remember the sky. They talk about this in China now, where the sky is kind of dark even when it's not dark out because of all the coal pollution. That's where I grew up. I mean, it was a very industrial, U.S. Steel was there, and Alcoa, and big manufacturing companies, and yeah, it was it's made a nice transition. It's a great town today, and I still get back there a lot.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful city now.
Yeah.
It's a tech city now.
It's a big tech city.
And and the amenities up there with the river and all that, it's just gorgeous. You used to be able to throw a match in the river and it'd catch on fire.
You do know Pittsburgh.
Oh, I know. Well, my dad was from there, and I enjoy traveling back there. So it's always a lot of fun. So we're gonna be heading into segment 2 here momentarily, and when we go into segment 2, I really want to hear about that journey from college, and then now all of a sudden you start getting the ants. You get on that first plane ride headed south, and that's got to be a pretty big thing for a guy that's 21 or 20 at the time. And so I want to remind our listeners, again, each week on the CEO Hour, we're bringing you top entrepreneurs. This week we have Tom Wallace. I also want to remind you all the shows are on the Adjunct CEO Hour podcast. And I know a lot of you listen to it. And our show's on 860 at 7 a.m. on Saturday. And then we moved it to the time slot because all the entrepreneurs want to get up early when they're working out and listen to this hour-long show of successes. And that's why we actually moved it through people requesting to be on at a better time than 10 in the mornings on Saturdays, because by then they were already going 100 miles an hour. So again, I want to remind you that each week we bring you this show with top entrepreneurs, and I'm your host, Dean Akers. And again, check out the podcast, the Adjunct CEO Hour podcast, and we'll be right back with Tom in segment 2.
The CEO Hour with your host, Dean Akers. Connect with Dean at deanakers.com. We'll be right back.
So, you're a tech startup. You're working hard, trying to make it happen with big ideas, big dreams, and a small budget. You need to connect with people in the same boat. Now is the time to join the early stage startup group, the Innovation Center, an incubator for early stage tech firms. You can find them at tbinnovates.com. Now operating for over 14 years, the Innovation Center is a regional, national, and internationally known success story, continuing to generate momentum in Pinellas County. Twice, the Innovation Center has won the Tampa Bay Technology Forum's Excellence in Service Award and has been recognized by Entrepreneur.com as a top 10 international business incubator. And now, Tech Garage, a technology and entrepreneurship center, has joined forces with the Innovation Center to provide a co-working program in downtown St. Petersburg. Connect with the startup community. Connect with the Innovation Center. Go to tbinnovates.com. That's tbinnovates.com. And tell them the Adjunct CEO sent you.
If you're a CEO or organizational leader looking to expand your business, join the CEO Council, where you'll meet and exchange ideas with fellow CEOs without the pressures of a sales network environment. You can join today by sending an email to application@adjunctceo.com. The CEO Council is comprised of over 220 fantastic local business leaders you'll be able to learn from because they walk in your shoes every day. When you become a member of the CEO Council, you'll have an opportunity to build trusted relationships during the roundtable meetings, share your triumphs, vet ideas, and work through business challenges with peers who can provide real-world business solutions. The CEO Council offers opportunities to hear from world-renowned speakers that inspire ideas to help members grow as both leaders and individuals. Join the CEO Council. Request your CEO Council membership application today at adjunctceo.com or by sending email to application@adjunctceo.com. That's application@adjunctceo.com.
Helping your business succeed in today's marketplace. Welcome back to the CEO Hour with Dean Akers.
Well, welcome to the second segment of the CEO Hour. I'm your host, Dean Akers, again bringing you top CEOs and entrepreneurs every week that share the journey, both their thoughts and ideas and insights of things they might not want to do again. Today we have Tom Wallace, the managing partner for Florida Funders, but a true Tampa Bay entrepreneur. I've known Tom now. We were talking about it earlier when he first started his company, Waldeck, but we're not going there yet. We're finishing up. He's in college. He's working local. He's just picked up tons of acumen from working in a country club. A, seeing wealth. B, learning customer service, and kind of learn what he didn't want to do too. So now you're in college, you're getting ready to graduate college. How does that journey start taking you out of Pittsburgh?
Well, I actually took a lot of classes, and I really did well in college because I was not a very good student in high school, but I really buckled down in college and did quite well. And I was ready to graduate in 3 years. This is 1979. Computers are really getting, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. really coming on, and I decided to stay an extra year and get a second degree in MIS, Management Information Systems, which was really new at that time.
Really?
It used to be, computer science or business. This was a new degree that was marrying those two things together. So I lived in the computer science center my senior year. I go to graduate. I literally get 9 job offers. I mean, if you had a degree, if you could spell computer in 1980, you were going to get. So I went to work for the Aluminum Company of America, Fortune 500 corporation. I interviewed with them, and the reason I took the job was because they said, "Do you like to travel?" I said, "I'd love to travel. I've never been anywhere." They said, "Well, there's going to be a lot of travel." And I said, "How much travel?" They said, "You're pretty much going to live on airplanes. You'll be gone, probably every week." I said, "I'm your guy." So that's why I took the job with Alcoa, and they lived up to it. And this is my favorite story. So I go from my first plane ride right before I graduate from college. I'm working for Alcoa. 6 months into it, they had a fleet of Learjets, of private jets, and there was a rule that if an executive was taking the jet to a plant and he had an empty seat, you could jump on it. So 6 months later, I'm on a private jet flying to Lake Placid, New York, and I'm like. And I can remember, as soon as I got off that plane, I called my dad. I'm like, "Dad, you're not going to believe this." I took pictures. I mean, I'll never forget it. My dad was like, "You're on a what?" We didn't even know private jets existed. So it was incredible. But I only lasted there 2 years. I was working on big mainframes, and if you think about 1980, it was the dawning of the personal computer. Apple had come out with a PC. Apple and all their competitors, Altair, Lotus would come later. The PC industry was just taking off. So I started hacking around. I bought an IBM PC in 81 with my savings. I was still at Alcoa. I was hacking around with PCs, and I went to Comdex. You know who Shelley Adelson is, the billionaire? Big Republican guy, and he owns the Venetian. He got his start at Comdex. Comdex was our trade show in the industry. When I went in 1981, Bill Gates was a keynote speaker. Bill Gates, nobody knew who Bill Gates even was. There were probably 2,000 of us when he gave the keynote. That was 1981. And you talk about a revolution. 1985, fast forward, Comdex is 250,000 people. The whole town is sold out. You can't get a hotel. You can't get, why that was a revolution is, if you think about computers before that time, they were mainframes and mini computers. They were huge. They were expensive, and it took a team of nerds to figure them out and program them. With a personal computer now, any small business, any individual can own a computer. And most importantly, they were easier to use. So there was this whole flood of entrepreneurship and wealth created by the likes of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Mitch Kapor and all these entrepreneurs that either were in the hardware side, the software side, the services side. So it was just crazy. I was again with Alcoa. My father says that's the only real job I ever had. And I'm like, I can't do this. This is my father worked same place 42 years. I can't do this. I go to Kevin, my best friend, and we were adventurers. We always liked adventure and skiing and doing stuff like that. We're like, let's start a company. We were so green, we had no idea what we were doing. And my brother, and we each pitched in $5,000, and I left Alcoa, and we started a company, and that was the beginning.
You know what, my experience, and the only reason I share this is normally I don't share my experiences, but this is funny because your partner, Mark Blumenthal, Mark and I met. I saw some little ad, and he was out at USF still, I think. He wasn't even married at the time. And I had a Burroughs B800, which was a big mainframe of this broke company I bought. I didn't know how to buy a company. And I just knew that I needed a PC, and he sold me a compact 286 with one is gigabyte smaller than megabyte, which is the smallest. It
would have been 1 meg.
Yeah, 1 meg hard drive. And we set up a network with Novell, and he stayed up nights helping me get my thing going on a network. And it was comical because that really he started getting in the business there. But you look back on that, you almost got to chuckle to yourself.
Yeah, it was a magical time. I mean, if you weren't growing 50%, your business 50% in that industry, you were losing market share. I mean, the industry, you mentioned Compaq. I ran into Rod Kenyon, the founder of that company, a month ago in Aspen. That was the fastest growing company in the history of American business, and still to this day. They went from zero, a startup, to I can't remember the exact, 150 million in 18 months and went public. It was Lotus 1, 2, 3. Mitch Kapor started that. He took it public in 2 years. I mean, these companies it was just exploding because, again, now the masses had access to technology. And my theory is that happens every 10 to 15 years in technology. It happened then, fast forward to 1995, it happens again with the internet, changes everybody's life. everything you do. Fast forward to 2006, happens again with the iPhone and all the apps and the cloud. Those two technologies changed everything. And as we sit here in 2019, and I'm still in the technology business, now you know I'm on the other side, I'm the
Right.
investor. I think if you look at the technologies that are coming mainstream right now, artificial intelligence, augmented virtual reality, 3D printing, Internet of Things, IoT, blockchain, quantum computing, it's all coming at one time, and we're at an unprecedented place in history. And the wealth that, and the entrepreneurs, the companies that are going to be created over the next 5 to 10 years are just, it's unfathomable.
So now you've both pitched in $5,000 each. And it was just the two of you, or did somebody else pitch in?
No, my brother did too.
So you have 15
but he would
grand.
never come to work for the company full time.
Well, you guys were maximally capitalized. You had 15 grand. You had a big cap table, didn't you?
Yeah.
So did you leave Pittsburgh, or did you start up there with your company?
No, we started in Pittsburgh. In fact, I had moved into an apartment when I was with Elko. I moved back into my parents' house because I couldn't take a paycheck. I worked 6 months. Kevin would come after work and would work 6 months. We worked about 6-7 months where he wasn't full-time. Then we had enough clients and enough business that he joined full-time. We rented some space and took it from there. My brother would never join us. He spent 12 years at Arthur Andersen, so he never joined that company. We sold that company. I remember I just turned 30, and I got a check for $1 million. I'm 30 years old, and I remember showing my dad that check. Now, here's a guy who's been a blue-collar guy
Right.
all his life. He's never made more than $50,000 in a year. And I show him that check, and he's like, I can't believe it. I know you were working really hard, but I never did figure out what you were doing because computers were the furthest thing from, he just couldn't even comprehend them. And he was like, I'll be damned. And
That had to be a pretty defining day in your emotions, wasn't it?
yeah. Well, one of the things that my parents taught us was they expected a lot, but you didn't want to disappoint them. So I think my siblings, we all were instilled with this thing that we want to make our parents proud of us. We don't want to do anything to embarrass them or disappoint them. And on the contrary, we want to make them proud of us.
So you and your buddy sell that company, and you have that liquidity event, which at that time at 30 years old and back in that era.
Yeah, $1 million was worth a lot more then than it is today.
Yeah, I mean, but $1 million is still a lot of money today. It really is. It's not by comparison, but
Yeah.
so, and you show your parents, that had to be a pretty fulfilling moment for you.
Yeah, it was.
And you shared earlier before that your parents, one has passed.
Yeah, I just lost my mother in March.
Which is, I'm sorry to hear that, but
Thanks. She was 91 years old. She had a great life.
My wife's grandparents died at 102, and they were all mourning, and they asked me to do the eulogy, and my eulogy was, I'll sign up for that today.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. You can take me out at 102, and I guess I'll have to cash out early. Yeah, and they were healthy all the way through. So right before we go into the third segment, share with me, you've sold the company, and is that the catalyst that brought you south?
Yes. We had, in our business, we represented IBM. And right before we sold, we went to IBM and said, we want to expand into another market. Where would you allow us? Because they kind of controlled how many VARs, value-added resellers, were in any market. And they said, we had 3 markets open. We had built a good relationship with them by then. And they said, we have 3 markets we need help in. Other than that, you can't go anywhere. Lexington, Kentucky, New York City, and Tampa, Florida. And I had some cousins that lived down here. I had visited the area. And Lexington was actually pretty hard to get to from Pittsburgh from a flight standpoint. Tampa was easy. Pittsburgh to Tampa direct flights. US Air at the time was flying 3 or 4 times a day. It wasn't terribly expensive. And New York City was just the cost that we didn't even consider that. So we opened that office. I started coming down here because my partner was married with kids, and I didn't get married till the age of 35 and start my family. So I started coming down here, and I got to know the area. Then when we sold, I didn't really want to sell the business as much as my partner, and we picked up another partner along the way, and who also is a childhood friend of ours, and they wanted to sell. And I said, well, if you guys want to sell, we'll sell. But we're going to carve out Florida. The buyer, which was a Fortune 500 or NASDAQ traded, publicly traded company at the time, and I'll tell you a quick story about that too.
Well, you know what? We're getting ready to go into segment 3 here in a moment. And again, I want to remind everybody about the CEO Hour. And we'll see you in segment 3.
Helping established CEOs and entrepreneurs. Connect with Dean at deanakers.com. The CEO Hour continues in a moment. Helping to navigate today's marketplace for startups and mainstays. Welcome back to the CEO Hour with Dean Akers.
Welcome to the third segment of the CEO Hour. Again, I'm your host, Dean Akers, bringing you top CEOs and entrepreneurs each week that share their journey, which includes their thoughts, ideas, and things that have helped them through their successes. Today we have Tom Wallace, and now he's going into the third segment. He's about ready to make that journey to Tampa, Florida. He was sharing in the last segment about how IBM kind of made a medallion available, and so now you're thinking about Tampa. Take us on from there.
So back up, we sold the business to Intelligent Electronics, and they didn't want Florida. So I said to my partners, hey, you guys work for this guy because I'm not going to work for him. Dick Sanford was his name. He's a good guy. But by that time, I was an entrepreneur. I was always going to be an entrepreneur. I'm moving to Florida, and I'll take that business and see what I can do with it. Now, one quick story about Dick. Dick called me up right before we were ready to close, and he said, hey, Tom, we're excited about buying your company, but would really like you to take our stock. We're a NASDAQ-traded company. Our stock is going to do well. Take our stock. And I said, this may have been the conservative side coming back from my family background. I said, Dick, I'm not taking your stock. This is an all-cash deal. I don't really want to do this deal as much as my partners do. We're doing an all-cash deal. And it's fine if you don't want to do that, and we'll just walk away. He said, no, we'll give you all cash. So we did all cash, and it was my doing more than my partners. I was always a CEO. So and his stock tripled in 12 months.
The flip side of it is there's been deals where that's gone down the tubes in 12 months.
I have a story like that, too.
So now you've got your cash. This territory is open because of your relationship with IBM. They trust you. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, we had a good, yeah.
And so he couldn't move. Your partner couldn't move. Did he ever move?
He never did, and he doesn't still to this day, even though he has a house down here, he flies back and forth all the time, but he ended up staying in Pittsburgh, raising his family there, and we would end up going back into that marketplace. So we started from that company, we rebuilt it. He spent 3 years working for the company that bought us. In the meantime, we grew the business here, and that business is the business is the Waldeck Group.
Right.
That business grew to locations in Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Pittsburgh. We went back into that market. Our non-compete expired, and we grew that business to about $85 million. Had about 350 employees, and we sold that to a Fortune 500 company. And that's the other side of the stock story. So this time we said, hey, we want to find a really good company with a really good stock, and we're going to take some cash. But we want stock. Plus, the other thing you learn when you take all cash, you pay a lot of taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So this company, their stock had really nice chart. The last 15 years, it doubled every 4 or 5 years. And so we take their stock. You know where this is going. We did 20% cash, 80% stock. The first quarter and it's unrestricted. We can sell it anytime we want. The first quarter we're with them, they missed their quarterly earnings, and the stock gets cut in half.
That had to be a crush. Did it ever come back?
It came back after a very long time. Things happen for a reason, Dean. You learn your lessons, and you move on. Well,
one of the things that all our guests share, especially at this point in their journey, and this is a big deal for entrepreneurs, is you can't let the setbacks define you. Would that be a fair statement?
I actually look at it even maybe take it even a step further than that. I always say that I have learned so much more from my failures than my successes.
Exactly.
I don't actually think success is a very good teacher. Failure is a wonderful teacher.
Yeah.
Especially, you get punched in the face, you get a bloody nose, you learn who not to pick on next time, right?
Right.
So, and you pick yourself up and you move on, and you learn a lot from failure. It's a great teacher.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, yeah, that's a big part of the journey, no question.
So you sell Waldeck, you get some cash, you have your stock gig. So do you just go to the beach?
No, I never have had any interest in retirement one. I will never retire. Doesn't interest me whatsoever. I love work. I have a passion for what I do. I love putting together teams of smart, talented people and working with my team and working on building a great company. I was very fortunate at the age of 23. I found what I love to do. Work with really great, really hardworking, talented people and build a great company. And that's what I love to do, and that's what I've pretty much done. I did a turnaround after Waldeck.
Well, do me a favor, because our listeners out there, and I always bug our listeners, turn your radio up if you're listening right now. Share that again, because I think that's a really defining moment for our listeners of why you do this. Your passion of talented people, great companies. It wasn't like I was looking for the next computer.
No, I think for me it was always business is a team sport,
right?
And I grew up playing sports, so I like team sports. And working with my best friend, and he was the same way, probably more so with me in the sports and working team sports. And we just realized pretty quickly that it's all about the team. But when you get a team together of people that you love to work with, and they're working hard, and you're sharing that goal, and it's not work.
No.
It's fun. We had fun. My ex-wife I'm divorced. My ex-wife used to say, "You can't wait to get to work on Monday morning. What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, I know, because I love what I do. So to me, I was like, people were like, "Why do you work so many hours?" I'm like, because I love it. It's not
work.
Yeah,
it's your passion.
I can go on vacation and get bored pretty darn quickly. And a lot of people, I'm 61, as you probably figured out or know, and a lot of people my age are, golfing or whatever. I'm like, I get plenty of golf in. I got plenty of trips. I get to do plenty of that. I still have a lot to give back. I'm in the age, point in my life where I can really work and give back. And I'm working with all these young people that are now entrepreneurs like I was when I was 23, and we're funding them and helping them. And I always say, what could be more fun than working with young, smart, talented people that are trying to change the world?
Oh yeah, that's got to just invigorate you to death.
It's a blast.
So now I know you sell Waldeck, you and your partner. You got a few bucks, and you're watching the stock market every morning. Where do you go now?
So I started angel investing pretty early on. And for those of you not familiar with angel investing, I was basically starting to invest in other tech companies. They were either founded by friends that I knew and I liked them and believed in them, or it was a technology. So I started this angel investing. So I'm even more angel investing now because I built more wealth. And I come across this company called Red Vector. And it was founded by a guy named Dave Chittister. The company's about 2 years old, and it's floundering. They're having trouble making payroll. And I decide I'm interested in investing in it. And I go to Dave after I do my due diligence and said, Dave, I don't know if you realize how bad a shape. He never worked there. He had hired a management team and said, I don't know if you realize how bad a shape this company is, but I'm not going to be investing. And he says, why? And I take him through the books are a mess. You can't make payroll, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, what we really need is a CEO. Why don't you come in as a CEO, and then you can ride the bike before you buy it, and then you can still invest. So I joined as a CEO. We worked out the terms of that, and then as I got into the company, it was my first turnaround, and I started buying more and more of the company, buying Dave out, and that journey turned into a 13-year run. 1 round of venture capital, 2 rounds of private equity. Our last exit was at $400 million valuation. And, it was just a great ride, a great team. Brought my best friend, got him back, got the band back together for that. And we exited that about 3 years ago now.
Well, that had to be, and that company filled a pretty important niche too, didn't it?
Yeah, we were an online training and education company. And we did it in one vertical market. David started, he was an engineer, he started in the engineering market, and then we ended up doing it for firefighters and we got into long-term health care, so we did everybody that works in long-term health care in nursing homes. We did all their training. It was a SaaS software company, so It was a software company as well as a content play. And it was just a great business. And it was almost all mandatory education. It was continuing education. We were real big in OSHA training. It was all this compliance and continuing ed.
But you were one of the early adopters. You're one of the early folks that really taught the online learning, which is now if you don't do it, it's kind of like, what? Yeah. Right?
In the early days, we were educating people on why you want to move to online, and it's so compelling because it's cheaper, it scales. You don't have to pay for hotel rooms, fly people in, feed them, Now, like you said, it's ubiquitous. But back then, in the early days, we were educating a lot of the companies, and we quickly pivoted the company. When I got involved in the beginning, it was all B2C, so it was selling individual engineers training for their continuing education license, keeping their license current.
Right.
We morphed it into a B2B play where we would go to the largest nursing home chain in America was our biggest customer, and every one of their employees went in every day, and on their desk was the university. It was their name on it, but it was all us. It was our software, all our courses, and we managed all that for them.
Wow, you have to be proud of that when you look in the mirror and look what you did, because it really helped their industry too.
Yeah, it was a great run, and we added a lot of value to our customers. We created a lot of wealth for our shareholders and our investors and our employees, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, to your point, and when we come back into segment 4, I want to talk about your new venture into really helping companies as an angel, the companies you've started now, where you really have taken angel investing outside of what I call the coffee can investing, or the friends and family, where you've sophisticated it to a degree. And again, I'm Dean Akers, your host of the CEO Hour. Every week bringing you top entrepreneurs and CEOs that share their journey. This includes their thoughts and ideas. Today, Tom Wallace, managing partner of Florida Funders, has been sharing some really cool stuff, especially as he's ridden the technology wave, and as he's made a point to all of us. He said it's an every 15-year cycle, which he outlined in one of the earlier segments, which if you want, when you listen to our podcast on the CEO Hour podcast, just play that back and listen to that 15-year cycle and his substantiation of it, because he's spot on. And what it means is, as an entrepreneur out there, you have to always be aware of what's coming and where you are in that cycle. Again, we're going to be back with segment 4 here momentarily with Tom Wallace as he shares his venture into growing his company, Florida Funders.
Success never takes the weekend off. Connect with Dean at deanakers.com. The CEO Hour continues in a moment.
Growth begins by understanding where you are now. For a limited time, business growth experts at Adjunct CEO will provide a full CEO physical of your business valued at $10,000 for free. Email ceophysical@adjunctceo.com. This offer includes financial, marketing, and sales analysis and an outline to help you strategize future success. For your free CEO physical, email ceophysical@adjunctceo.com. ceophysical@adjunctceo.com. Florida ranks high as a new hub for business growth and innovation. Startups, restarts, and starting over are all part of the new vitality generated as geography and economic opportunity collide. As Florida's entrepreneurial ecosystem grows, many are using Synapse to grow their business. Synapse is a groundbreaking methodology that connects all personas within the innovation economy, utilizing a method that enables all users to progress in meeting their given needs while promoting much-needed community engagement. Never more than now has Florida presented opportunity to be better aligned in business, providing huge potential for greater overall results with strong collaboration and holistic leadership. Synapse is a growth synthesis platform that will allow you to take advantage and flourish in ways you never thought possible as an entrepreneur, as a business, and within the context of community, events, connections, publishing, all with Synapse. See for yourself at synapsefl.com. That's synapsefl.com.
Helping your business succeed in today's marketplace. Welcome back to the CEO Hour with Dean Akers.
Well, welcome to segment 4 of the CEO Hour. I'm your host, Dean Akers, bringing you top CEOs and entrepreneurs each week that share their journey. This includes their thoughts, ideas that helped them in their success, and I think a lot of times, more importantly, the things they learn not to do again. And earlier in the last segment, Tom Wallace, our guest today, shared with how failure was probably his biggest education. It wasn't just all that successes. And Tom, so now you've gone through all this stuff. You've gone through another really big exit, right? Mm-hmm. Did that feel good?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And so now you're without a job again.
I will say one thing about that.
Okay.
I tell this, my brother-in-law, who's a wealth manager, financial manager, and manages some of my wealth, when on one of the exits, I don't remember which one, he said, today has to be the greatest day of your life. You just got the wire transfer comes in, where it goes. And he said, it must be the greatest day of your life. And I said, his name's Nadav. I said, Nadav, make no doubt about it. The greatest day of my life was the day my daughter was born.
Absolutely.
Period. I don't care how big a check I ever get, or nothing will compare to that.
So what's your daughter doing now?
She just graduated from college. She just moved to Atlanta and she's working at Spanx right now.
Well, that's a great company.
She's very excited about it.
What college did you go to?
She went to Auburn.
Oh, good. Well, I'm a Florida graduate, so we have all that jump. Well, you wouldn't know about that because you were up in the North
I've adopted
Country.
Auburn. I'm a big Auburn fan. So you whooped us this year. I was at that game.
That had to be it was a good game for us.
Yeah.
So she's off on her. Have you encouraged her entrepreneurship type vision?
I think she will be an entrepreneur. She always says that. She always says, Dad, I'm never coming to work for you. Let's get that straight. But I think she will do something entrepreneurial here in the future.
One of the things a really smart man taught me when I was a young man, he would never let his kids work for him. What he did was, though, they ultimately all did work for him, but only after they went out, improved themselves and got their medal in the real world. And in one particular, one of his sons wanted to come right in the business. So he actually paid one of his competitors out west, wasn't really a competitor, he paid the salary of his son, and he told the competitor or his buddy that had the same business, he said, you can have him wash your car, I don't care what you do, but I want you to keep him for 3 years and mold him, which he did. He made a real, he went out and he had to make his own way. So, Well, that's cool. So now Florida Funders, how does that come about?
Yeah, so I mentioned Dave Chittister, who founded Red Vector, and we bought him out. He was out of Red Vector pretty early, a couple of years in. He's a classic serial entrepreneur. I don't know how many companies Dave started. So ran into Dave. He had started Florida Funders because he studied crowdfunding, and he said, hey, this is a trend, and it is. It's a game changer. Right. It's going to help part of the democratization of the financial system. And it was fledgling and not doing real well. And he approached me at the same time he approached our friend Mark Blumenthal, who would become my partner. And I looked at Mark and said, Mark, I'll do this if you'll do it. But somebody's got to run this. Dave can't run it. And we told Dave that, and Dave agreed to that. And so we both wrote a check, and we got involved. And really, it was right up. What got me excited about Florida Funders was, for the last 20, 25 years, back in 1999, me and a bunch of other guys around here, people around here, started the Tampa Bay Technology Forum. So I've been focused on building the tech ecosystem in Tampa, in Florida, for 25 years. And with crowdfunding, this really was like, wow, we could really, if you look at the venture capital industry, 60% of all venture capital in the United States is invested in 4 little micro markets: Silicon Valley, San Francisco, New York City, and Boston. About $130 billion last year, 2018. You know how much of that Florida got? $2 to $3 billion. We're the third largest state, and we get like less than 2% of all the venture capital invested in the United States. And that's and I've always believed that technology is our future. Our future is not tourism. It's not agriculture.
No.
We need high-paying jobs. We need career opportunities. So Florida Funders just fit my mission like a glove, and really a chance to make a difference. Nothing against nonprofits. You've worked in them. I've worked in them. I support them. I help them. I've been on boards, blah, blah, blah. It just bores me. It's not me. This is my way to give back, to help the next generation of entrepreneurs. So Mark and I got involved, and we started really looking at it and how can we make the biggest impact. We're a hybrid between a venture capital fund. We raised an $18 million fund. We also have this crowd of over 1,300 investors, and we're combing the state trying to fund and help build the next generation of tech companies here in Florida, so that our best and brightest entrepreneurs are staying in Florida. They're not moving to Silicon Valley. They're not moving to Austin. They're not moving to New York. They're staying. If anything, we're pulling some of the best and brightest entrepreneurs from those places to come here and start their business. We envision, Florida. Our tagline is Sunshine State to Startup State. But we envision a Florida where, if you're like my daughter just graduated from college, if she wants to come back here, there's meaningful jobs, meaningful career opportunities that young people want to come here. And that's what we're focused on at Florida Funding. And we're really participating in the venture capital that's invested. And that starts with early stage. That starts with funding these companies really early on so they can get those Series A rounds of $10-20 million checks. So.
Well, and you're also bringing your experiences. Both you and Mark have a lot of entrepreneurial experience. You have exit experience. You're bringing a wealth of knowledge to these young folks, and your passion shows through to you. The point you made in the first segment, it's not about the money so much as it's about teaching this ecosystem how to grow in Florida. And I think I tip my hat to you.
Thanks. We've done about 30 investments now, Dean, in the last 3 years. We've invested probably about $20 million in capital. And when a company makes it through our vetting process, we look at probably 50 companies to invest in one. We have a whole team of people. Now we have a deal team. We have a great team together, and we're really making a lot of progress, and we think we can obviously take it to the next level and even do more. The state of Florida got into this business about 6 years ago with something called the Institution for Commercialization. I forget it's a really long name, but they basically were investing in companies that were taking IP out of the universities. They were trying to encourage the commercialization of intellectual property IP out of University of Florida, UCF, USF. They funded 60 companies. Long story short, they decided they weren't very good at this. They want out of it, so they now turned that over to us. We manage those 60 companies. We're the manager of that, so that's exciting. We've got in the really early stage pre-revenue deals with a small seed fund. So we're really trying to move the needle and make an impact, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, Tom, as we wind up the show today, I want to thank you for coming on. But what I've taken away today, and the listeners I know are taking away, is your venture fund with you and Mark and the folks you've surrounded. It's not all about the money. You're bringing expertise that helps these entrepreneurs. You're coaching them, aren't you? Am I correct?
Oh, absolutely. We always say we don't just write checks. We
Right.
then assign an operating partner who's one of us. By the way, we have a network of 1,300 investors who are really talented, several billionaires, really all the people you would know.
Yeah.
And a lot of them want to go into those companies and help. And they don't. They've made their wealth. They want to give back, and they see this as a way to mentor and coach a CEO to get involved to help them with their experience. So yeah, we're really, really focused on that. We're not doing a great job with that today. We're going to do a great job. We just hired a young woman to come in and run that program for us.
Yeah, I think that when somebody's looking for money, I tell people when they're looking for money, look more for who the partner is. I mean, it's not about a check. If you're a young person, and I say young under 40, and you've got some great ideas, look for somebody that's got some gray hair that has been successful in the space or successful, period, and hook up with them. And yeah, they'll write a check. But the brain power they bring to you, you can't write a check for that, can you?
As we like to say, not everybody's money is the same shade of green.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know your team over there, I know a lot of the folks that are on your group, and the people you and Mark have put together, y'all have just done an outstanding job of building a capital group for the ecosystem in the Tampa Bay area.
Well, thank you, Dean.
I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
Well, again, this is Dean Akers. I'm your host each week on the CEO Hour, and we've had Tom Wallace today. And I mean, Tom, you've really shared an unbelievable journey. And I got to remind our listeners, if you have friends that want to listen to the show and learn about Tom's journey, just go to our Adjunct CEO Hour podcast. It's on every network of the Monday following the show, and we're really proud of our listeners. And I really appreciate all the people that reach out to help at adjunctceo.com for comments. And by the way, if you have a question or you want to get in touch with Tom, how should they reach you?
Tom at Florida Funders.
Tom at Florida Funders. And if you can't remember that, just always remember help at adjunctceo.com. You send any question in about anything, any of our previous shows, or any help we can give you. Again, I can give you I've got the CEO physical. That's always a hoot. I send those out to young entrepreneurs, and they take that CEO physical, or the 3 Circles sales program. Again, those are all free for just reaching out at help at adjunctceo.com. And again, I want to thank Tom for coming on today. Any parting couple seconds ideas or thoughts you want to give our listeners?
Well, at Florida Funders, we like to say Entrepreneurs Day, which is after Namaste for yoga. And Namaste translated means the divinity within me honors the divinity within you. Entrepreneurs Day says the divinity within me as an entrepreneur honors the divinity within your listeners as entrepreneurs.
Wow, Tom, I really appreciate it. Again, re-listen to this again at the Adjunct CEO Hour podcast. And I'm Dean Akers, and I really appreciate all our listeners coming in. And again, reach out at help@adjunctco.com, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for listening to this CEO Hour with Dean Akers, helping businesses and CEOs succeed in today's marketplace. Receive a free CEO physical when you connect with Dean at deanakers.com. That's deanakers.com. And join us again next week for the CEO Hour with Dean Akers.